Okay, welcome to your CubeFit motivation class for your midweek motivation. Today's topic is everyday motivation. Everyday motivation. How do we get motivated every single day? That sounds somewhat impossible, especially if you're coming from a place where you haven't really felt motivated in quite some time. And I'm sharing the quote up on the screen by Zig Ziglar today. And it says, he has said, people often say that motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it daily. So let's talk about how can we begin to cultivate motivation more frequently to the point of daily motivation. So let's talk about this. And really, what it comes down to is we have a responsibility to cultivate motivation. Motivation is not something that just happens randomly, it is an emotional response to things that we can trigger. So let's go ahead and learn how can we cultivate motivation. We've talked about some of these before. You can use your body to cultivate motivation. Oftentimes, motivation does require energy, a feeling of energy to take the first step that will generate momentum and therefore motivation. So, to be able to do that, we need to cultivate energy using our body. You physically need to generate energy to be motivated to complete some things. Now, if your goal that you're wanting to be motivated to do is to take a nap, maybe you don't need as much energy to do that. But for most other things, you do need to cultivate energy to follow through on the steps that are necessary to follow through on whatever action it is you're wanting or needing to take. So let's say you are laying on the couch, sitting in the chair. Let's say you're sitting in the chair at work. You haven't gotten up for quite some time. You've been working. You're on your computer. Your body has not moved. Sometimes we haven't even moved to stretch our arms up overhead. And so we need to actually cultivate bodily energy by stepping away and untethering ourselves from our desk. So this is going to require us to get up and move to cultivate some energy that will then help us to facilitate energy. So an example might be you have a goal to meal prep your lunch or to go eat a healthy lunch. And let's say you don't feel like it, you're not motivated to do that. You're sitting at your computer and you really just want to DoorDash something to you to the office. Or let's say you have your lunch and you really don't want to have to walk to wherever you can to go warm it up if you're working from the office and you're just not feeling motivated to do that. Let's take a 1 minute energy break to cultivate energy that will give you the energy to take those steps and cultivate that momentum and motivation. Okay. So one example here, let's go ahead and stand up, and you might not feel motivated to do this, but go ahead and stand up and start out with the very basic motion of marching in place. So what this does is marching in place, you're moving the large muscle groups, you're getting oxygen into your bloodstream, and oxygen is carried throughout the body into the brain. So just getting a little bit of motion here, stepping in place for 30 seconds, and then go ahead and start to do some spinal twists. I'm just tapping my toes while I'm twisting my upper body, and then I'm going to start to reach. And again, your breathing might start to increase. You can go up overhead, because again, your arms probably haven't left your side if you've been typing, and with your hand on your mouse. Awesome. And then some maybe kick Kick back behind you, stretch back behind you, stretching the chest. Again, breathe. 3, 2, 1. Okay, now that you're up, you've got that momentum of your first step. Now you would take that motivation and that physical energy that you have and do the next right thing. So whatever that may be, whether it's prepping your food, warming up your food, filling up your water bottle, whatever it is. So that's an example of how 1 minute of motion, of getting energy, doing some jumping jacks is another option, can make a huge difference in cultivating motivation to take the next right step towards your goal. All right, our second way to cultivate motivation is using our mind. We have to think about our goal. We have to remind ourselves of it. So think about your goal. What is the thing you want to do? One thing. And remind yourself of that and remind yourself of your why. So Brendan Burchard is a motivational speaker, and he has said, no wonder you don't feel motivated. You haven't thought about what motivates you in 3 days. It must be done daily. To have consistent motivation every day, have to think about it every day, have to have the energy to do it every day. So cultivate 1 minute of energy using your body. And then 2, take another minute to think about your goal. What is it that you want? And if you are not able to give yourself 2 minutes of generating energy and then 2 thinking about your goal, it's not a goal, right? It's just not a goal. If you can't give yourself 2 minutes to physically and mentally prepare yourself to think and to generate energy to follow through on that goal. So what is it? Why? What is it? What is your goal? And why is that a goal that you have? And sometimes it's not the right goal if you're still after having this energy boost and then having these thoughts about the goal. You might realize it's too big of a goal right now, or it's not the right goal right now. Or you don't have the ability to follow through on that goal right now. And that's okay. So that's when we need to make an adjustment and develop some confidence. And so confidence is the other thing. We need to set our goal and whatever it is that we're wanting to be motivated about. Think about, when was it that you were successful at this? Think about your confidence and develop some confidence there. The confidence of when you've done it in the past, or I have been able to do this before, I can do this again. Or whatever it is that will give you confidence. If you've seen somebody else do it and that has made you confident. So this is one thing I felt we're building a house right now, and I felt very overwhelmed with it. But whenever I talk to a friend about their story of going through some of these processes, it gives me confidence that, hey, they did it, I can do it too. Or I look around and I'm like, millions, if not billions of people have built or have had a house. This has been done before. It's okay. Get some confidence, some pep talks, and you can either get that from yourself or you can listen to somebody else give you confidence. Find that. So 3 little tips on how to cultivate motivation. But when we go back to wanting to feel motivated every day, that's a great goal. It's a possible goal. You need to think about these 3 things and you will feel motivated every day to follow through on your goals. But ultimately, our goal is to not have to think about it, to turn these goals into habits, to turn these things we're wanting to feel motivated to do into just things we don't have to think about. That's the ultimate, right? Because we have learned that when we have to use willpower, we do expend energy, and you only do have so much energy in the day to give. You can only cultivate so much energy, and then you are depleted. So the best thing is to actually turn these areas that you're wanting to be motivated for into habits. so that you don't have to generate as much energy. It becomes more of a habitual action that is cued by your environment and by your behaviors. So habits are better than motivation. Okay, so habits are our ultimate goal of what we want to build. Habits are also greater than willpower. Willpower is limited, and motivation is a feeling we have to cultivate. So habits are better because once we build a habit and create a habit, there's less work you have to put into it. So begin to cultivate habits. And here are a few things of what you can think about to take your goal and start to create some key framework items to be able to cultivate these habits. And so cues and environment are greater than habits. This is from the book Atomic Habits. Have you ever seen this book? Oh, it's not showing up. Atomic Habits. If you don't have it, this will be one you want to try to pick up if you can. But he says in there that environment, or that motivation is overrated. Environment is really what is more important. And that's because your environment serves as cues for you. So really set up your environment as best you can to be a physical cue to help you follow through on things. That's why a reminder on your calendar is a cue. Seeing something that you've put out, like maybe in your fridge, front and center of your fridge, that's a cue in your environment. Having the candy bowl out or candy out or desserts, things like that is a cue to follow through on something, probably not what you want to follow through to meet your goal. So be thinking about the cues in your environment to create those habits. The other one we already talked a little bit about is confidence and the ability to change, the ability to follow through on whatever the action is, making it so small you do have the ability to do it, or learning something or trying it a few times and generating that confidence and ability. Those create habits. I like to define habits. Like sometimes people think a habit is only something that they do perfectly all the time, 100%. It doesn't have to be 100%. You can define what equates to being a habit for you. It can be at 95% completion. I've heard a speaker called Mike, his name is Michael Hyatt. He aims for 95% completion of goals for those to be considered habits. Another author that I've read, Laura Vanderkamp, she defines habits as 3 to 4 times a week. It's whatever the action is that you are wanting to create a habit for. What makes sense? Is it something that needs to be done constantly every single day, or can it be done 3 times a week? And for you, that's a great goal and it's appropriate. What is it for you that generates a positive habit? And again, small tasks plus wins. So making them so small that it's 95% likely you'll do it, that generates confidence and winning, which brings you into more habitual behavior. So just some things I wanted us to think about today is don't give up. Aim to motivate yourself every day. Do it like you bathe. Think about it, generate energy, make those small wins and develop confidence. Think about your confidence and what you've been able to do over time. And then think about how can you start to not only be focused on generating motivation, but how can you start to generate and cultivate habits with some of these ideas here in mind. All right, that's it for today, everybody. Thank you for joining me for your midweek motivation. Think about your goal right now as we leave this class session and begin to identify where are some cues that you can put into your environment or into your calendar. What are some triggers that you can set up? to really ensure that you follow through on this energy that you develop, mindset that you develop, and then really put that over time to develop these habits. We'll see you next week for your midweek motivation. Thanks for coming. See ya.